It started with the bread basket. We were at a rustic Italian place upstate, one of those polished spots that pretend to be casual but smell of reservations and retirement portfolios. Menus without prices, only italicized ingredients and hopeful silence. Rachel had chosen it for her father's birthday. Her father, who wore monogrammed polos and had never held a job that didn't involve a corner office or an inherited network. It was the six of us, Rachel and me, her parents, her brother Doug, and his wife Claire, everyone polished, composed, and me. I own a custom furniture business, small, hands-on, design, source, build, deliver out of my city warehouse. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. Or so I thought. Doug had just finished talking about his latest real estate flip in Brooklyn. Exposed brick, six-figure margins. I nodded politely, chewing bread that tasted like it had its own stock portfolio. Then Rachel reached for her wine and said, "Oh, don't worry, Dad. If the housing market crashes, Jake can always sell a few more stools to cover dinner." Light, breezy, harmless, if I was in on the joke. Doug chuckled. Claire did that little scrunch smirk that fails at hiding amusement. Her father barked a laugh, relieved maybe the attention wasn't on him. I froze, hands gripping the bread. Rachel didn't meet my eyes. The way she sipped her wine, relaxed her shoulders, I knew this wasn't accidental. Practiced, rehearsed. I forced a smile. "Well," I said, "people always need somewhere to sit." A few chuckles. Not enough. It felt like agreeing to my own belittling. The conversation moved on, summer homes, European stocks, Pilates, wine pairings, but I stayed pinned to that one-liner like a thumbtack through my chest. I noticed everything. Rachel never glanced at me again, Doug ordering for Claire without asking. Her father calling the waiter boy, even though he was clearly in his 30s. The place, Luciano's, family-owned since 1986. I'd been there years ago, dating Rachel. She spoke differently then, softer, dreaming of a bakery, flour on her hands, smiling customers. Now she worked in PR, only smiling at her phone. After dessert, a lavender panna cotta I could barely taste, I excused myself to the restroom. I didn't go. Instead, I wandered past the kitchen, narrow, smelling of garlic and stress, until I found the manager's office. A man in his 50s, papers stacked, arguing in hushed Italian English. When he hung up, I stepped in. "Sorry to interrupt, you the owner?" He looked up, tired, narrowing his eyes. "Because I want to talk business." 3 weeks later, we finalized the deal. Marco, born in Naples, skeptical at first, laughed genuinely when I told him, "I also know how to run a business without treating people like garbage." The night I signed the papers, I sat alone in a booth, ordered the bread basket, still tasted like arrogance. But this time, I smiled, not revenge, balance, rewriting a moment that made me feel small, planting my flag in the very ground where they tried to bury me. Rachel didn't know yet. I didn't tell her, not because I was hiding it, but because I didn't know her that moment. Not yet. I just watched. I noticed how she kept brushing off my work when friends asked. "He's still doing his little projects," she'd say, like I was building Lego sets instead of crafting hardwood dining tables for downtown lofts and boutique hotels. I waited. Sometimes I drive by Luciano's on a Thursday night, park across the street, watch the lights flicker through the windows. The sign still reads EST, 1986, but underneath, in the paperwork neatly filed at my lawyer's office, it now says, "Property of Jake Ellison." I didn't make a show of it at first, no renovations, no announcements. I asked Marco to stay on a bit longer, transition gently, keep the staff intact, let them feel safe. They deserved that. A few months later, Rachel brought up her father's birthday again. Over coffee one morning, she said, "Should we just go to Luciano's again? It was nice last year." I shrugged. "Sure," I said. She didn't look up from her phone, but she smiled, then breezily, "You'll want to budget for it though. I doubt you've sold enough bar stools to cover the bill." She laughed at her own joke. I didn't. I sipped my coffee, let the moment pass like a shadow across a sundial. Saturday night arrived. We pulled up in her dad's Range Rover, of course. Rachel wore emerald green, tight, expensive, loud, and walked in ahead of me, greeting the host like she owned the place. But I did. Doug and Claire were already seated, wine poured, napkins folded, her parents followed, everyone settling into the leather-lined booth with the confidence of people who'd never been told no. Her father grinned at Rachel. "Nice touch, Ratch." She beamed. The waiter approached. Young, attentive, kind. I remembered his name. Tomas. He glanced at me, paused, then smiled. "Good to see you again. Specials are ready, and the chef asked me to say, thank you again for everything, boss." Rachel froze mid-sip. Doug blinked. "Boss?" Claire laughed awkwardly. "Wait, did he mean—" "Yes," Tomas said. "Mr. Ellison here. He's the new owner, helping with some amazing changes behind the scenes. The kitchen's never been happier." Even over the piano music and clinking cutlery, you could hear a pin drop. Rachel stared, mouth slightly open. "You—" she started. I leaned back calmly. "Yeah, bought it a couple months ago." Her father blinked. "The whole place. Mine. Well, technically, the land, the brand, and the rights to the menu. But yeah, all of it," I added. Doug's fork clattered. Claire looked like someone had swapped her rose for vinegar. Rachel finally found her voice. "Why wouldn't you tell me?" I met her eyes. Not angry, not smug, clear. I thought it was just one of my little projects. Thomas, bless him, kept standing there, perfect timing. "Should I bring the wine list, sir?" he asked. "Please," I said. Rachel's voice softened. "You seriously bought a restaurant just because of what I said?" I met her eyes. "No, I bought it because I believed in it. Same reason I started my company. Same reason I wake before sunrise to haul oak beams, sand finishes until my fingers bleed. I believe in building things." I leaned forward just enough for the table to hear. And I'll admit, being mocked for doing what I love in this very booth left a mark. Sometimes when something leaves a mark, you either let it fade or carve something better over it. Her dad cleared his throat, trying to pivot. "That's impressive, son. Didn't know you had it in you." "I know," I said. "Most people don't until it's done." The food came out smoother than ever that night. The wine tasted better. The air had shifted. The jokes were measured. The laughter polite. Rachel looked at me as though she didn't quite know who I was anymore. Moments like this don't break the world. They reveal it. She thought I was small. I'd never felt taller. The ride home was silent. Rachel stared out the window as if the trees could explain something I couldn't. Her reflection shifted with every passing light. At one point she opened her mouth, then closed it, twice. When we got home, she went straight to the kitchen, uncorked a bottle of wine without asking if I wanted any, and poured herself a glass like it was a sedative. I leaned against the doorway, watching. She didn't look up. "You planned that," she said eventually, voice low, unreadable. "Plan what?" "The waiter, the reveal, all of it. You wanted to embarrass me." I shook my head. "No, I just stopped protecting your version of me." She turned then, fully turned, eyes searching mine like maybe, just maybe, the man standing there wasn't the one she'd grown so comfortable belittling. "That night," I said, "at your dad's birthday last year, you laughed at me like I was a child playing house. In front of your family, your brother, your father. And not once did you think to apologize. You just kept doing it. Jokes, comments, every chance to remind me I wasn't enough." She set the wine glass down too hard. "I didn't mean it like that. It was just teasing." "No," I said. "It wasn't teasing. It was subtraction. Little ways of making me less so you could feel more." Her voice cracked. "You think I don't believe in you?" I didn't answer. Not directly. I walked past her to the side table by the stairs where I kept the mail and picked up a letter I'd been holding for weeks. I handed it to her. She unfolded it, scanned the header. Design and Function Quarterly. A full-page feature on me, my company, my work. They'd asked for an interview after one of our tables landed in a boutique hotel in Seattle. "It's a big deal in the custom design world," I said. She stared at it like it was written in code, like maybe it didn't make sense anymore. Me being seen, respected, becoming something without her spotlight shining on it. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, more to herself than to me. I shrugged. "Felt like you weren't listening." She sank onto the edge of the couch, deflated, small. The woman who had worn emerald green and laughed too loudly at her father's table now looked like someone trying to remember how to be human. I paused in the doorway. "Rachel, I didn't buy that restaurant to show off. I bought it to remind myself I can own the space I'm in. Literally, if I have to." She didn't speak. She just nodded once and stared at the magazine in her lap. A week later, she asked for space, moved in with her sister, Said she needed time to reevaluate. I didn't stop her, didn't fight, I just kept building. Orders kept coming. The warehouse buzzed. A cafe in Oregon wanted 10 tables by November. A gallery asked if I'd exhibit a line of chairs made from salvaged stormwood. I said yes. People saw me, not as someone's husband, not as a man who got lucky, but as someone who made things that lasted. I don't know what happened between Rachel and me. Maybe we'll find our way back. Maybe we won't. But either way, I won't shrink to fit someone else's comfort again. Here's the truth. The dinner didn't break me. It clarified me. And the restaurant? That wasn't revenge. It was a declaration. I will not be laughed out of my own story.